$84 trillion is set to change hands over the next 20 years. Whether you're passing it down or inheriting it, the decisions you make today will shape your family's financial future for generations. Welcome to the Great Wealth Transfer, where David Pulcini, CFP, guides you through the strategies, insights, and pitfalls of navigating one of the largest financial shifts in history. What you don't know could redefine your legacy.
It has been said that a goal without a plan is just a wish. This episode is one that we've been building toward all season. If you've listened to the stories about, wow, we did a lot of them, blended families, sudden wealth, tax traps of IRAs, gifting, adult and minor children, grandchildren, and how ex-spouses sometimes end up with an inheritance. This episode brings it all together because it's not enough to know what could go wrong. We talked a lot about that. What can go wrong? What framework do we use to get it right? And that's exactly what I'm giving you today, is that framework. So I've had a large number of people ask me just on the side, hey, why is a financial advisor talking about estate planning? Do you guys write wills or something, or some variation of that? And the answer is no, we don't. But when advisors are doing a true financial plan, all of the things that we've talked about, we believe they need to be considered, right? If we're giving financial advice, how could I not ask about all of the things that we talk about in the Great Wealth Transfer episode? So if we're not planning for an inheritance or planning to leave money behind, if we're not planning for those things, we're not doing our job. We as advisors need to consider each and every investment account, how they're titled, contributed to, invested, monitored, updated, and who the beneficiaries are. Then we need to review that systematically and proactively with our clients, okay? So to show you how we think it should be done, here's the framework that you can use yourself, or you can choose an advisor to guide you through. We call it the legacy process, which is fitting obviously to the Great Wealth Transfer, and it's the exact system that we use with our clients to help protect everything they've built and make sure it goes exactly where they want it to go. I think this episode is going to be a powerful one because it's actionable, right? We know what we're going to do with it. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly where to start and why it might be time to bring in a real planning team to help. So legacy is just an acronym for the process. Obviously, what that means is each letter has a meaning, okay? So legacy, first up is the letter L, and we would call that list of assets. List your assets, okay? Now, it sounds simple, but I'm going to ask you this. Do you know exactly what you own, how it's titled, and who gets it if something happens to you? Because here's the thing, we've seen situations where someone thought for example, their will controlled everything, but the joint account, maybe it passed automatically without going through the will. The IRA went to an ex-spouse because the beneficiary form wasn't updated, right? We talked a lot about that. Your estate plan starts with what you actually own and how it's set up. So let me give you a real example. We had an episode about a joint account where one spouse passed away and the adult kids were shocked to find the money didn't follow the will. It bypassed it completely because of the way the account was titled, okay? We need to be able to handle that. So an action item here for you, start an inventory. List out every account, your property, life insurance policies, business interests. Then, how is it titled? Is it joint? Is it individual? Is it in a trust? Who are the beneficiaries? So we use a one-page tool to list everything on one page. And it seems very simple, but here is what that one page does. First, having everything on one page makes it an easy visual, so it's easily reviewable. It's also very easy for an advisor to see where there are opportunities to consolidate accounts and potentially move some things around and keep it all organized. So I also say this also acts as a treasure map. So I love this question. We've said this a lot. If something were to happen to you today, what would they find? One of my favorite questions. This one-page map helps answer that. They would find the map, right? Wouldn't it be nice to say they'd find my important information on one page? It has all of my investments, my bank information, my attorney, my CPA, and my insurances all listed cleanly on one page. So also using this, we can go account by account to make sure beneficiaries are correct, the titling is correct, and also do financial planning around this information, okay? And last on this part of it is getting everything on one page works while we are still around. You don't have to pass away for this to be useful. How many of you have a spouse that isn't as interested in the finances or just does not want to get into any of the details? I'm telling you, when everything's on one page, laid out in a very simple format, this is what we hear. I can finally see what you guys are talking about. Or I get this a lot. This isn't as complicated as I thought, and I hear a lot more. But getting back to the point, L is list of assets. That needs to be done. That is step one. And without that, honestly, nothing else matters until we get things listed out, okay? E in legacy, establish and evaluate your goals. This is where we zoom out because it's not just about money. We talked about that a lot. It's about purpose. So what do you really want to happen with what you've built? Okay. Is the goal to reduce taxes? Is it to keep things simple for your kids? To retire comfortably? You just want to retire. I don't want to deal with any of this. I just want to know that I can retire. That's a goal, right? To make sure your grandkids go to college. Is that why we're doing this? Or maybe to make sure that your family doesn't fight after you're gone. Okay. In our Give Now or Give Later episode, we talked about gifting while you're alive. Why? Because it lets you see the impact, and sometimes that's worth more than the dollar amount itself. Okay. So the action item here, let's do this. Let's write down the 3 things that matter to you most. Okay. As examples here, just to get you thinking. Take care of my spouse. That might be an important goal. Keep the lake house in the family. I get that one a lot. Or I want to leave something to my church or my school, or to feed hungry kids or animals, whatever it might be. List out those 3 things, okay? If we don't define the destination, no plan can get us there, right? So we ask, when someone meets with us, a series of questions around goal planning. And I think one of the most difficult things with this, and maybe in life in general, is finding that purpose, finding the why, right? Maybe you have a clear vision of that, or maybe you need some clarity. Most people need some clarity, right? I don't usually meet with people that are like, this is exactly what I want. I have a very clear vision. Normally, we need some help and some prompting. So once the goals are established, we can then start the planning. But without the goals, we can't really plan for much, okay? Let me give you an example. I just thought of this as we're talking here, of questions that I'm always thinking of and just keeping top of mind. And many of these are answered just by having the conversation with our clients. But I do want you to think about this. So when these questions are answered, think of how much easier it is for us to plan accordingly and help you out, okay? So I might ask this: how would your current accounts and investments, how would they be taxed if something happened tomorrow? So knowing this, what can we adjust, right? Have you ever done a projection of your estate tax or income tax burden in retirement? It's a good question. I love this one. When your grandkids talk about you, what do you hope they say? Have you talked to your family about your plan? And would you like help doing that? I know that can be awkward. It's like that can be facilitated by the advisors we mentioned before. So another one, would you rather give during your lifetime or have it done through your estate? Could be different for different people, right? What does a successful retirement look like to you, not anybody else, day to day? And when you think about the wealth you've built, what do you want it to do after you're gone? Okay. And then I'll give you one more. I have hundreds of these, but who are the people you feel most responsible for protecting? All right. Just think about, if we answered all of those questions, what we can do. And again, I'll stop there. But when we get to know our prospective clients and clients, we can answer most of these actually without asking, because folks give us the answer without us even knowing, or without them knowing, I should say. But we do get those answers and we're able to help plan more. So the E in legacy is for evaluating your goals. Once the goals are clear, we can get to work on that. Okay. Next here is G, which is gather documents. And this is the part most people want to avoid, right? How fun is it to go out and gather your documents, especially if you haven't done it before? It's easier to keep up than to catch up, right? Yeah, that's right. It's easier to keep up than to catch up. But so if we already have some of this done, it's much easier. But if you have none of this done, this is a task, and it could take some time. But here's the thing: when something happens to you, what would your family find? So now we're just leaving it to them to deal with. What would they find? So we had a client whose brother passed away. He lived with his girlfriend for 6 years. He didn't have a will. Everything went to a cousin he hadn't talked to in 20 years. And that's what happens when you don't get the paperwork done, okay? So what do we need? When we say gather documents, what do we try to get? We want the will. We want the trust if it applies. We want the power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, the account statements for each investment, okay? Obviously, if we're working with a client, we have the account statements, tax returns. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Deeds to properties, life insurance info. So the action step here is to start the folder, right? Digital or physical. Let's just get it started. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just get it going. Your future self and your family obviously will thank you. But what we want to do is start with that one-page document that we mentioned. All right. So when we're working with somebody, we're going to list the assets. We're going to set the goals. Then we're going to gather these documents. And once the values and the assets are on one page, we want to back it up with those actual documents, statements from each account or the insurance documents, right? So again, when this is started, even before it's complete, just knowing that we've started, I'm telling you folks, there's this feeling of liberation. It's like we finally got to it. It's been this nagging doubt for a long time. So just knowing this has started helps with that. And we help our clients get that done, all right? The A in legacy is assess investment and tax risk. This is where we bring in the financial planner's lens, okay? Because how your assets are invested, which is what most people think that's all we do all day, obviously going through this, I think you know differently now, but how they're invested and taxed directly impacts you and also what your heirs actually receive. So we shared a scenario about a $1 million IRA split between 3 kids. One was a teacher, one made $300,000, and one was on disability. Same inheritance, wildly different tax outcomes. Okay, we're not going to get into that now, but it's very different. So again, some quick tips here, just as a reminder. Traditional IRAs, taxed when they're withdrawn. All right, that's the same as 403Bs, SEP IRAs, 401Ks, deferred comp plans, okay, maybe pension lump sums. They're probably taxed when they're taken out. Roth IRAs are tax-free when they are taken out as long as the rules are followed, okay? Then there's brokerage accounts or after-tax investments. We call that the step-up in basis. That resets the cost basis on most non-retirement assets. So if someone passes away, the basis goes up, no taxes are owed if it's set up properly, okay? Which brings me to think of account titling and that tax location. That matters, okay? And an advisor can help with that. So here's your action item here. Review each investment. What is it? Who owns it? How's it taxed? Who gets it, right? So this is where the real legacy planning happens, not in the documents, but in the coordination there. So what we do here as advisors at our firm, we use software and other tools to match the goals that we established to those dollars that are invested. If you want to buy a boat next year, should that be aggressively invested? Usually no, right? Doesn't matter your age. You're using that money next year. Okay, so there's a 1-year time horizon for those dollars. How about your retirement funds? I get this a lot. What if you are recently retired or are about to retire? Does that mean you should change everything to conservative investments? Common misconception. I hear it all the time. Hey, I'm retiring next year. I should be very conservative. So what we usually say that is something like this, or at least I'm thinking it. If you plan on spending it all in the next 5 years, sure, you should be conservative. If you plan on using your retirement accounts over the next, we'll call it hopefully 20 to 40 years, we still have a really long time to invest, right? Don't miss out on all of that time. Let's stay more balanced. You don't need to go all conservative for money that we might not even spend for 40 years, right? So then we want to check the efficiency of each investment, all right? The coordination of your investments, all of them, how are they working together? If you have accounts all over the place, how are they working together? And then the taxes involved, okay? For the tax part of it, we try to gather the 1040s from our clients each year to run a tax analysis. And this becomes especially important in the early years of retirement, or Or if you're younger and you're facing a large tax liability, we want to run that analysis. But let's focus on the early retirement years here. This will help us figure out how much room we have in our tax brackets. If we have a real number, right, we actually look at the number, which we can get from your 1040s, we can plan on taking some money out. We can plan on Roth conversions or other options down the road, right? If we can pay less now and we know where tax brackets are today, it most likely makes sense to look into that, okay? Another example here, if you are in a lower tax bracket and you know that you are not going to use that money, let's say it's going to your kids, why not pay now? I know it sounds crazy. Why don't we intentionally pay taxes rather than let it compound and pay taxes later in some bracket that we don't know? Where do we think taxes are going, folks? Do you think they're going to go up or down? Right? Most people say up. So as a firm, we do all of this and more simply by collecting 1040s and looking for opportunities. And many times there might not be one, right? But when there is, it's a huge value add from us and really any financial advisor that does that. All right. C, the C in legacy, create your plan. So now it's time to bring this all together under the create your plan, the letter C. The will, trust, beneficiary forms, the financial plan, the tax strategy, they all have to work together. And that's why we use what we call an agenda-based process, not a set it and forget it, right? So here's what we do. Review all documents and accounts. We want to look at everything. We're going to create that map. We call it an asset map. We're going to evaluate the taxes investments. We coordinate with your attorney and your CPA. The wording needs to be correct. Once your will and all these other estate documents are done, we need it to match the proper accounts. And then proactive and systematic reviews and strategy meetings, okay? Our clients know that if we don't hear from them, they're going to hear from us. It's not on our clients to reach out to us. We reach out to them. So let's talk about this. Remember the trust versus will breakdown? The biggest difference wasn't legal. It was actually just having clarity and control, okay? That's what a plan gives you. So the action item is here. You don't have to do this all today, but I will tell you folks, we have to start. So we typically start with this, right? For retirement. How much do you need every month to live? So how much do you need? Where will it come from? Okay. And there's a reason I'm emphasizing you. Once we know what someone needs or what you need, we can put together a plan to help you or them contribute to the right accounts. Take distribution from the right accounts. We always have to keep in mind tax traps around IRAs, Medicare, if it applies, and thinking long term. So the plan itself is a moving document. And again, going back to what I was saying, once we know that you are all set, if you are, then we have to plan for giving that money, or how is somebody else going to get that money, or where's it going? So we need to figure out what you need, and then the rest, we'll call it the leftover money. If you don't need it, it's going somewhere. Right? So let's plan for that. So going back to the plan being a moving document, it's in almost all cases, the minute we give somebody a financial plan, it's outdated. Okay. But it gets us in the ballpark. I might even argue that a financial plan, financial planners are going to be mad at me, has literally never been accurate. So how could it be, right? With the market fluctuations, I deliver a plan at 10 a.m. today, and by 4 p.m., it's already changed. Market went in some direction. There's no way we could guess, right? There's tax changes, interest rate changes, contribution changes, surprise distributions that we might not have planned for, people passing away, being born, and so many other unforeseen circumstances. But with that said, a written plan is the start of something that gets us closer than we were before, right? So this is one of the best parts, by the way, for me of working in financial planning, is all the changes and knowing the loopholes. Once we get everything on one page and we know the goals, we have the documents and statements, we know the taxes and the investments, and then something big happens. That could be sudden wealth, retirement, divorce, marriage, inheritance, again, passing away, having children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren, laws change, a pandemic, all of these things that just happen create opportunity for us as advisors to add tremendous value to our clients' financial lives, right? When we know the full picture and we know the system, right? We know the ins and outs, we can actually make a huge difference, okay? And last here in legacy, the letter Y, finally, right? The letter Y is for yearly review, okay? because, like I just mentioned, life changes. People get married, divorce, have kids, sell businesses, they move. I didn't mention that. Yeah, move states. If your plan doesn't evolve with you, it falls apart, it breaks. So we had a client, we've talked about this, who still had her ex-husband listed as her healthcare proxy. Think about that. She had no idea. Imagine how that could have played out. Ex-husband, healthcare proxy. That's like the pull the plug thing. You know where that's headed, right? Let's put this on our calendar. All right, this is the action item. 1 meeting per year with your advisor, your attorney, or your team. This is if you're trying to do it yourself. Put it in your calendar, review it, meet with the attorney, the team, okay? Or yourself. If you do this alone, just 1 hour to make sure everything is still aligned, okay? For us, again, we reach out. For many clients, it's more than once per year, by the way. I say yearly review. Many times it's more than once per year. It depends on the situation. What changes might be happening and what we might need to do, okay? For our client meetings, they are agenda driven with details covered, because I'll tell you this, folks, it's really easy just to get talking about other things. We talk a lot, and sometimes if you're not agenda based, we can miss the entire financial point of the meeting, I should say. When we have a process and that professional agenda right in front of us, it makes it more difficult to miss those things once we get talking about the other things. So there it is, folks. That is the legacy process. List your assets, establish and evaluate your goals, gather the documents, assess the tax and investment exposure, create the plan, and then yearly reviews at a minimum, like I mentioned, okay? Many times it's more frequently than that, and especially as things are changing. And I'm going to leave you with this. When I am doing a talk to a group, or if I really get into this during a meeting, this is what I hear. I had no idea financial advisors did all of this. I'll hear things like, my friend thinks he can do this all himself. All right. I thought you guys just managed investments. I just had this. How much does all this cost? This is crazy. I was asked this morning, are you guys taking on new clients? How do we start working with you? I still hear after all of this, I can handle all of this myself. Followed by maybe there's no way I can do all of this myself. So here's what I would say about working with an advisor. If an advisor does all of this, and through the 6 points of financial planning, if they can't justify whatever fee you are paying, they are doing it wrong. It takes one $70,000 tax savings, for example, or one beneficiary change, or helping select the right pension option, getting the right insurances in place. That could be from life insurance to an umbrella policy, or gifting correctly, taking from the right account to avoid Medicare surcharges, whatever it is. A good advisor can pay for themselves very quickly. And all of that is before the portfolio and investment management, by the way, and coordination and efficiency. So had nothing to do with the investments or the pie chart. And that's, again, most people think, well, if I pay you 1%, you get me 1% more return on my investments, at least I'm even, which is true. But what about all that other stuff? What is that worth? Okay. In many cases, we can show that. It's very tangible. In some cases, we won't know for a long time. But I'm going to stop there and leave us with this. We get one shot at leaving a legacy. And whether you do it well or you don't do it at all, it's completely up to you. If you guys want help, we're here. We are taking on new clients. And I'm going to say this. Thank you for being part of this journey through the Great Wealth Transfer. It's been great talking about all of these things. Okay. And no, it's not over, but that sounded like a nice dramatic ending. So I'll stop there, folks. Make it a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Great Wealth Transfer Podcast. If this podcast resonates with you, reach out to 6 Point Financial Partners at 585-485-6048 or email dpulcini@6pointfp.com.
Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. Information here is provided in part by third-party sources. These sources are generally deemed to be reliable. However, neither 6 Point Financial Partners, Private Client Services, nor RFG Advisory guarantee the accuracy of third-party sources. The views expressed here are those of 6 Point Financial Partners. partners. They do not necessarily represent those of Private Client Services, RFG Advisory, their employees, or their clients. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by 6 Point Financial Partners or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Securities offered by registered representatives through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory LLC, RFG Advisory, or RFG, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services, 6 Point Financial Partners, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.